It's Saturday and I'm prepping for Thanksgiving, taking my turkey out the freezer, adding it to my vegetable crisper at the very bottom, turning it down. Now taking out the ingredients for my bread, letting those come to room temperature while I add a cleaned sweet potato with the skin on to a half a cup of water, boil, and now I'm taking that potato and I'm mashing it, taking my cup of soy milk, adding it to a pan, so let that come up to 110 degrees. I just guesstimate it. I'm taking 2.5 teaspoons of active dry yeast, adding that to a small bowl, getting that ready for my soy milk mixture, for my soy milk. Now I'm separating 2 large eggs, making sure I get all those little white parasitic pieces out of my eggs. I got to be very mindful of what my husband puts in his body. He's 82. He's not well, and he has dementia. For those of you who follow me, you know that. And so I'm very mindful of his diet and what he eats. But it's Thanksgiving, so I'm going to go a little out for him this Thanksgiving, but not too far out. Everything is organic. We eat only organic foods, except those that may not have to be organic. So there's my milk. I'm going to add that to my yeast, and I'm going to blend that in well. Cover it with some plastic. I'll add a plate on top of that, but it's not necessary. I did it because there's a small hole in the plastic there that you can't see. And now I'm measuring out my 100% whole wheat flour. 4.5 cups I use, and I'll keep 2 teaspoons of salt. Now there's my yeast with the foam on there, nice and foamed. I'll add that to a larger bowl. Now add all my wet ingredients to that bowl. 3 tablespoons of olive oil along with a stick of butter. I'm just going to kind of break that up. I want it in chunks. Makes the bread fluffier. Now I'm going to add a teaspoon. Now this has been in here for a minute. I also let it sit over top of the stove, which kind of caked it up a little bit. But anyway, I add a teaspoon of baking powder to my flour. Now I'm adding my sweet potato to my wet mixture. Again, a teaspoon of baking powder to the flour. And I'm cleaning up my work area. That's absolutely necessary. I have to always keep my work area clean. That's very important. Even if you don't see anything come off on the towel, still keep it clean because there could be things there that you just don't see. Although it looks clean, I still want to make sure. So I'm going to still make sure I clean that because I'm going to be kneading my bread or my dough on this counter, and I want it to be clean. So now I'll start adding my flour just in half cups. Well, 1.5 cups, but still, I'll go ahead and mix that in, blend that in well. And then I want to oil up my larger bowl because I want to make sure that it's nice and oiled because and I forgot to add my honey, so I'm adding a 1/3 cup of honey. And that should have been added to the wet ingredients, but it was still nice and wet, so I was in good shape there. So now I'm adding my dough to my work area, of course, with a good bit of flour on the bottom. Now I'm going to go ahead and knead it. It doesn't need to be kneaded, but just a little bit of kneading. It doesn't need a lot of kneading, so I'm just going to knead it a little bit. I was about a good 5 minutes, if that. Just keep adding flour. It should be sticky, but not too sticky. So you just keep adding flour until you get it where it's not overly sticky. And then you go ahead and add that to your large bowl. I use plastic wrap along with a kitchen towel. I bought these towels especially for the kitchen. So along with my kitchen towel, and then I'll put it in a warm place to dry. To rise, and there it is. It takes about an hour and a half, a little bit more than regular bread, to rise. So it takes about an hour and a half, give or take a few minutes. It depends on how warm your area is. And so now I got to make sure I oil my pans that I'm putting my bread in. Oil those real well. That's my oil towel. And so I just roll oblong. This is the way we grew up eating, making our bread, eating the bread in oblong form. So I continue to do that, make them that way. And that's the way they look before they rise. I go ahead and cover those with plastic wrap, and I'll also put the lid to these pans on there and put those again in one place to rise. And that's what they look like after they rise. Now I'm going to go ahead and cover those and cover them tightly with the aluminum foil and then the lid, and then I'm going to put those in the freezer as is. And we will cook those on Thanksgiving Day.